welcome back to another Power 15 interview. I indeed have a power player with me for this interview. She is a power new home consultant. She's a power mom. She's a power, what are you, CEO, operations of a sales training company. You are a lot of different hats that you wear in your life. Megan Carstensen. Oh, I don't know if I even said that right. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. I just know you as Meg. That's really how I know you. But tell everybody else tell us about you and your role as a new home consultant at Derrick Custom Homes.
Sure. So I've been working actually for Derrick Custom Homes a little over 5 years, selling a higher end product, 600 to $1 million in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul area. But I have been in new home sales a long time. I graduated from college with a teaching degree. I taught elementary, second grade for 3 years. I loved teaching second grade. A couple reasons: they were never smarter than me, and they still loved coming to school. I am a mom of 2. I have one in high school. She's a freshman. I can't get over that some days.
No.
And then I have a little guy who's also in second grade this year. So he and I are best buds when it comes to schoolwork, when I can get him to actually sit down and apply himself. You know, he is still a 7-year-old boy.
Yeah, well, as the mom of a 12-year-old boy, I can appreciate that they're a little bit different than girls in those early years of schoolwork. But new home sales, the reason you've been in it so long is it's kind of in your genes, right? It's kind of in the blood.
The business. Yeah.
You did grow up in it. Yeah. You literally grew up in a model home.
I did. I spent a lot of time in a model home. For those that don't know, my mom is Kerry Mulcrone. She is the president and owner of Kerry & Co., a consulting and training company for new home sales builders. So I've been surrounded by this most of my life.
Forever.
Yeah.
And you've been backstage with us at the Super Sales Rally. You have handed bottles of water. You have written speeches. But that's the thing, like you, my husband, Alan, you've been behind the scenes, but you've also been absorbing all of that knowledge and information and utilizing it in your roles at the same time that we've been delivering it.
Sometimes I tell people when they find out who I am and what I do, I say, I'm the man behind the curtain and she's just the pretty face.
That's right. Well, you know, Alan and I have the joke that I'm the talent and he's operations.
Right.
And that's kind of you and Kerry is talent and operations for her company, but then in your own right. And that's one of the reasons I invited you to do this is in your own right. You would never say it, but you are an outstanding salesperson and you blow your sales numbers and your sales goals out of the water. You're such a hard worker. So one of the interesting things about you and your sweet family is your daughter Ella is a basketball player, right?
Yes, she is. She
quite competitively, I understand.
Yes, they just started their fall league, and being a freshman, she has been asked to play with the varsity squad for their fall league.
First of all, I cannot believe she's in high school.
I know.
I mean, there were many years ago when we were much younger and skinnier, or at least I was. We took the kids to Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
And she was tiny and Brady was tiny and Kay didn't even exist.
No.
Right? It was a very long, hot day.
Yeah.
But she's now a freshman and she's been asked to play on the varsity basketball team.
Yeah. We'll see how the season goes, but it plays a huge role in her life. And it helps, kind of guide us as parents to watch your child have the dedication that they do. You hope that as you've been parenting them and guiding them through their life, that they see what you're doing as a mom, as a business person, as a salesperson. My husband is a school teacher. So the dedication that he has to his students, it's so fun. Now you really see that come full circle with her as she does something that she loves every day.
And isn't it, I have found it to be true that when Brady is successful at something, he's 12 he's in the 7th grade. So he's a couple years behind her. But when he is successful or achieves something, it is worth 10,000 standing ovations at the super sales rally. Like, absolutely. I would rather him be successful than my own success a million times over.
Absolutely. I actually just this past weekend got the opportunity to watch her play with these varsity girls Sunday last weekend, because I'm generally in a model home. So I happened to take the weekend off. So I was able to join my husband and watch her. And we were just bursting with pride. She plays a position that is really dominant on the court. She's a point guard, so she brings the ball up and down and then kind of sets the plays up. And to watch her guide these older girls to do this, you just sit there and your heart just...
I don't know how you were. I would have been a crying mess. I don't know how you kept it together. Now, audience, I know you might be wondering why we're kind of on this thing about Ella and her basketball, but the truth is it has a very specific point, because as I was researching the number 15, because I sort of randomly invented the power 15 for this interview series, I thought, okay, I'll interview 15 of our best and brightest in the industry for our summit event. And I thought, okay, the number 15, well, what does it stand for? What does it mean? What is it? I was like doing some research, and come to find out one of the things 15 is the free throw line is 15 feet from the basketball hoop. Yep. Well, I don't know as much about basketball as you do, because I'm not a basketball mom. I'm a swim mom. So I know a lot about competitive swimming, but I was kind of fascinated by that. So I began to research free throws. Mm-hmm. The average NBA player is at about a 50 to 60% completion rate on free throws, which is kind of terrible if you think about only hitting half of all the ones you throw. The greats at free throws are more like an 80, 90%. We've got this really cool researcher right here in Raleigh at our university that it has studied the whole art of it and written the most scholarly papers and all this really cool stuff right here as a resource, which I kind of thought was a cool thing. So then I've been asking people in these interviews, like, what is our equivalent of a free throw in home building? Something that we should be better at, or something that we should do more easily, that we should practice more on, that we're not hitting consistently. What would you say?
Well, I think, I relate that a lot to what Ella does. And we just recently built a new house, and in our home, we have an indoor gym that she goes into every day and takes at least 25 shots in her sessions. And with that is all of her dribbling routines and working on defense. She actually just asked me to play defense for her last night. And I was like, you might want to talk to your dad, who's 6'3". Yeah. He's better at that than I am.
Yeah.
But when she's taking those shots and doing those dribbling routines and having someone play defense for her, she's creating muscle memory that even here, she's not in a game situation. So it's just maybe her there by herself, or one of the two of us down there helping her as best we can. But when she gets into a game situation, because she's practiced that so much, it just happens. She knows to go left instead of right, or she knows how much to use her legs when she's at the free throw line to score those points for her team. So creating that muscle memory for her is a good reminder to me to keep doing those same things every day. If I'm selling custom homes, not every home is going to be the same. Not every buyer is going to be the same, based on different demographics, different neighborhoods, different home styles, that it's always going to be different. But if I create that same experience for someone throughout the process, knowing I still need to cater that to their needs, because they're not always going to ask me the same questions. They're not going to have the same wants and desires and needs. So my needs analysis and discovery with each home buyer is going to be different. But as long as I follow that process and do that muscle memory with them, I know no matter what someone's building, that they're going to get the same Megan every single time.
Yeah.
Good day or bad day. Some days you come in and you're like, oh, you're the first person I've seen in a week. What do I say? But because I do that same thing every time,
yes,
I know how to do that. I know what needs to come out. I know the right questions to ask. Having someone come in to a model and you say, what are you out doing today? Well, I'm shopping for cars. No, you're not. You're in a model home. What are you? You're out looking for something. You need something. Something has happened to you, or something's going to happen to you that you decided to stop. For whatever reason, you decided to stop. And so when you've got that muscle memory and doing the same thing every time, the end result hopefully is a sale.
And it really will kick in and carry you on days when you don't feel good. I know I've had days where I had to give a keynote somewhere, and maybe I had a bug, that day, or had a really bad migraine that day, or whatever I was working through, but I was expected to be on that stage and to deliver. And it was not the audience's problem that I didn't feel like being there, or maybe I had a personal problem, a relationship problem, and I just didn't want to be there, but didn't matter. It was my job to be there. But the practice, the muscle memory kicks in. You do your job and you do it well. But I can tell you from being a swim mom, they teach the same thing to the swim kids. It's the position of the head. It's how the arm comes across and goes in the water. It's how the leg goes up and down. Like there are muscle positioning that you do, how you reach for the wall, how many strokes you count before you reach. All of that is taught, very formulaic.
Yes.
And it's muscle memory. Yes. That's right. So keeping our analogy going, my next question for you is, who's on your cheering squad? Like, given that we do all have good days, bad days, it's hard being in sales. You get told no a lot. You get told no a lot when you're a mom. It's hard being a mom, and you have a new puppy. That's hard. Who kind of keeps you going and cheers you on?
Yeah, well, I that's a good segue into it. And I think we kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit ago by talking about who my mom is. And she is by far my everyday biggest cheerleader, doing what she does and traveling the country and training people who do exactly what I do every single day. Not only do I kind of live and breathe that with her while she's now on Zoom calls with all of these salespeople instead of traveling, I actually get to see a little bit more now than I did before. But it doesn't matter if it's a customer question, a builder question. You know, sometimes you have to work through some things with people sometimes that a customer will come in and ask you a question and you know that they're probably not going to like the answer that they're going to get, or they might not like it, but you have to deliver it. That she helps strategize with me and
Yes.
will encourage me through the entire process. And it's not to the point where she will, you know, tells me, okay, say this, do this, act like this, but it's those, you know, bullet points or snippets that she's had in her, sorry, Mom, but 30 plus year career in the new home sales industry, that she's lived and breathed it longer than the 7 years that I've been doing it. So she's encountered so many other things that without her, I don't know that I'd be as great at what I do. And it doesn't matter, you know, good, bad, or indifferent with whatever the outcome is. She's always proud. Yeah. That's one of the things that I feel from her, that, you know, she'll say, okay, let's try this or take this direction with them. And then I'll call her and say, hey, guess what? It worked. And she's so proud. It's not like see, I told you so. I knew that was work, but it genuinely is. She kind of how I feel watching Ella on the basketball court, or you watching Brady in the pool. She's proud to see that success and how things work. And if it doesn't work, she's there to pick you up too, you know, and help you brush it off, because somebody else is going to come in. You got to get on to the next one.
That's right. So, I mean, I agree. And she's been one of my biggest cheerleaders and supporters, more, I would say, in my personal life, because, you know, digital marketing isn't her area of expertise. So, but definitely in my personal life, we've been, I say, sisters for years and years. And she has been that cheerleader and running scenarios with me and helping me problem solve. And then we share a lot of clients together, where she does the sales coaching, I do the marketing, coaching, and services, and we troubleshoot back and forth and problem solve back and forth. Mm-hmm. So, you know, listeners, I would say to you, couple of things about this. It's not only just knowing who's on your squad, but it's remembering to thank them and be thoughtful about them and showing gratitude towards them, which is yet another thing I've learned from the awesome Kerry Mulcrone, who is one of the most thoughtful people you'll ever encounter, with a little note, a little something. I picked this up for you. I sent this to you. I mean, she really taught me the art of that as well. So
actually, it's funny that you say that, Meredith. She just this morning gave me, I don't have it in here with me, but this little box, it's called Lunchbox Notes. And she wrote some and filled them out already. My kids don't eat hot lunch at school, so I pack a lunch every morning for them. But she filled some out for each of my kids and then left some blank ones in there for me to fill out. And it's just stuff like that the thoughtful.
It's so thoughtful.
Those kinds of things, that to have that person in your corner.
So if you're listening, you could be that person for someone who doesn't have someone.
Right.
Look around you, open your eyes, you know, and then B, if you are lucky enough to have somebody like that in your corner, when was the last time you reciprocated with something truly thoughtful back to them? Because obviously thoughtful people appreciate thoughtful things too.
And so when you say open your eyes too, it's maybe not someone in your industry, like you were talking for you and Kerry, that she's not a digital marketing guru, but as long as have to be cheerleader for you in some aspect of your life, personally or professionally, to help lift you up when you need it. It's amazing to have that person in your corner.
And there are so many people who really don't have somebody like that. Yeah. And I think having our antenna up, If you're listening and you find yourself kind of in your head, if you found yourself a little down lately or struggling, ask any expert, any motivational book, whatever. One of the main things, any faith-based expert, one of the main things they will always tell you is start serving others and you'll get a lift. So if you start being that thoughtful person for somebody else, it will lift you. So tenfold. And then all of a sudden you're not in your own head as much. And I think that's a real positive, positive outcome. All right. So we've got muscle memory and taking 25 shots. Yeah. And what we're talking about there is really becoming an expert at what you do, becoming that professional that people can rely upon, and then becoming a cheerleader for someone and recognizing the cheerleaders in your life that keep you going so you can take your 25 shots, right? And then as we start to wrap up, then we kind of start to look ahead. We're recording this now, it's mid-October. When everybody listens to this, it'll be mid-November. So we're kind of rounding the corner on 2020. Thank goodness. Yeah. Looking into 2021, what do you think our challenges are from your perspective? You're in custom home sales. So from a perspective of a salesperson, from a broader perspective of the industry, just kind of what do you see as a challenge that we got to tackle coming up?
Yeah. Well, I think right now in sales and marketing and construction, there's so much happening, and it's happening so rapidly right now. I mean, who would have thought in a pandemic building would have done this instead of, staying even, if not doing this? Yeah. I don't think anybody really anticipated this. No. I don't think suppliers anticipated it. I don't think builders. I think the industry as a whole is just shocked by it. And right now, I think because so many things are happening in the sales world and then in the construction world, it all just kind of has to flow together, that communication is so important. Because when you're bringing in purchase agreements, but you're scheduling closings, and then you're doing homeowner warranty work and all of these things, you have to communicate to make sure that everybody's on the same page, because it's kind of like you feel like you've got 500 balls up in the air and you're waiting for just one to drop, and then it's just going to start raining.
Yes.
So if there isn't that communication piece to make sure that everybody's on the same page of and being aware of what's happening, I've met this person 4 times. I think they're ready. It's coming down the pipe. But we also have these 5 closings to schedule at the end of the week. And it's month end. And we've sold all of our models because we just finished a home show. So now we have to get into our next home show and start those all over again. We just all need to communicate with each other on what's coming, what's going, what's the next moving piece, so that it doesn't start raining.
Yeah. So the image that came into my head was your son, Cade. You said he's in 2nd grade, right? Yeah. Him in the ball pit. Yeah. At one of back when we were allowed to go to indoor things.
Right.
And at the bottom of the ball pit with all those little plastic balls kind of raining down on top is what it starts to feel like when you're at the pace that we've been at. So the communication you're describing, it sounds like, is a lot of internal communication within your company of what's coming, what's going, and then also then external to the clients too, right?
Right. I think the customers also need to be aware of all of the things that are going on in the world too, that yes, we 100% value you as a customer and will do everything we can to exceed your expectation. But for some builders, maybe there's 12 of them all at the same time. Yeah. And so you have to communicate with them too and prepare them that for us in the custom home building industry that we'll start with, your plans and your design, and then we'll work on the pricing. And then we need to see if the two of them meet and match in the middle with what you were thinking. And then at that point, we have to bid the house out. And it could take 3 weeks to bid the house out. So they need to be prepared that sometimes in this industry, there is a little bit of a hurry up to wait. You hurry up to make those plan ideas and decisions and meet with the architect or the drafter to get the plans drawn, but then you have to wait a little bit and pause. And as a salesperson, for me, I think during that pause is the most important time to stay in touch with that customer too, so that they don't feel like they've forgotten me or I'm not important to them. Somebody else has come in and is more important or going to spend more money, or whatever it is, that in the silence and the pause is when the communication is the most important.
So it sounds like what you're saying is expectation setting of what the timing is going to be.
Right.
So that if there's a quiet period, they don't feel neglected.
Correct.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's the biggest thing that we kind of fail at communication wise?
I think right now, as you can be waiting 3 months for roof trusses to be built and brought to the job site. That's the challenge. That I know that because I'm talking to the internal piece to my company, but I'm still that front line for that customer. So then to relay that information to them is important. So you it's a tug of war a little bit. You hear something and then you have to give it to them.
I think some new home consultants really avoid those harder conversations because they just think if I don't talk about it and I wait it out long enough, it'll finally rectify itself or happen. And then I don't have to have an uncomfortable conversation. And meanwhile, all heck is breaking loose.
Well, I think that brings it back to that muscle memory too, that if you're communicating and doing the same thing every single time, even though the experience is a little bit different, you or to me as a salesperson, it doesn't feel uncomfortable. You don't dread making that phone call because you do it for everybody.
Yeah. See, you're unnatural. This is exactly why I asked you to do this. Thank you so much, Megan. I talked a lot about my relationship with Kerry over the years, but equally important to me is the one that I've had with you and your sweet family. And I kind of can't believe your kids are as big as they are, and mine either. And that needs to stop. But otherwise, I remember
the builder show when my mom said, "Brady's here."
Yeah,
you're up.
I told her, you're the backup plan, but I can't imagine that'll ever happen. It'll be fine. And then he showed up 3 weeks early, and I texted her from the delivery room, "You're on, babe. Good luck."
I think in that moment, I was her cheering squad. That I was like,
"Oh, you've been her cheering squad hers and mine. There have been many builders show where you were sitting on the front row of the sales rally, like literally willing us not to fail. And we didn't because you were there, and it was awesome. So we appreciate you. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this for me.
You're welcome.
I really wanted to have that custom builder insight in this series, and we thank you. We're all better for it.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. All righty. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Hey.